Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on best practices for interviews. My name is Abby Pillsbury, and I'm a Senior Marketing and Program Strategist for Mars Solutions Group. I will be kicking us off and introducing our speaker and handling the Q&A. Please put all questions in the chat, and we will answer them at the end. Before we get started, I would like to share a brief summary of what Mars does for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. Mars Solutions Group is an industry leader in serving organizations that require the best talents in data management solutions to help build a more connected and more profitable business. We provide a range of opportunities for Fortune 50, 500, and 1,000 companies that align with your professional goals, ensuring you are a good fit for the role in the company environment. In addition to employment opportunities, we also offer a reskill and upskill opportunity through a program called Mars Returnship. The Mars Returnship Program is a free on-ramp for returners, those with a gap in tech employment looking to re-enter the workforce, accelerators, those trained in technology in graduate school looking to gain practical knowledge, and changers, those in another career looking to break into the field of technology. Our exceptional graduates and partner companies enjoy a customized experience to meet the unique technical and interpersonal needs of all involved. I would now like to hand it over to our speaker, Emily Patch. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Abby. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. I am very excited to share with you the best practices for interviews and in today's time doing it virtually. So as Abby's mentioned, my name is Emily Patch, and I am the Senior Director of Delivery and Strategy here at Mars. As Abby mentioned earlier, our organization specializes in talent solutions in which we provide staffing resources to clients, usually contract to hire, or direct hire. Majority of our business is IT staffing. A little background about me. I have been supporting the IT industry for the past 10 years, and I'm local here to Milwaukee. However, I've supported clients and candidates all over the country. I've prepped numerous of candidates for interviews, from meeting them in person, pre-pandemic, of course. And I used to introduce them to hiring managers, and now I help candidates prepare for their interviews virtually. So in today's discussion, we will assume the best practices are for virtual interviews. I will cover for you on how to prepare for an interview, from your technology, which is the platform that you'd be interviewing on, to your attire, to how to research and prepare for interviews. And then I will also address how to answer behavioral-based questions, specifically using the STAR methodology. And then lastly, I'll share with you the most commonly asked questions and how to answer them, and then how to end an interview. So as far as technology goes, we get a lot of candidates that get interviews today via virtually. So I always tell our candidates that are interviewing with our hiring managers to test their technology. So you want to make sure that your Wi-Fi connection is working. If it doesn't work, make sure you have a personal hotspot. Usually a lot of people do have that on their phones. And speaking of phones, please make sure you are silencing your phone. For example, right now I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, so no one can call me and interrupt our session here. Make sure that your camera and audio is working as well. I know at times when I hook up my laptop to a dual monitor, my audio always gets messed up. So make sure you understand how to fix that setting. I would say probably at least 40% of our interviewers have issues with the link not working, or it gets cut out during the interview. So I recommend asking the person that set up your interview for that manager's direct contact information, or who to contact if for some reason you have issues with the connectivity. I also recommend sharing your own contact, such as your cell phone number or email, so that way the hiring manager can call you directly should there be issues there. Most interviewers will send you a link. So you'll get an invite from Zoom, Skype, Teams, Google, whatever it may be. So make sure that you're testing those out. Learn the basics of that particular platform, from how to mute and unmute your mic, changing your background. Like, for example, I blurred my background so you don't see all the mess I have in here. as well as knowing how to screen share or gallery view. And if you're unfamiliar with how to do this, I highly recommend just going on YouTube, simply searching how to use Zoom, how to use Google Meets. There should be guides on there. As well as the framing of your video, make sure there's a bit of empty space around you, and that your shoulder and chest are visible. There should be no glare or any reflection. And then use the pre-background setting. So like example, mine is a little bit blurred, and that's what I like to use. Some people have the beach on there, or have a nice office. It makes for a good talking point sometimes. I also recommend showing up a few minutes early before the interview. Usually, 2 to 5 minutes, just as if you were in person, you'd arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. But in a video, I recommend getting there 3 to 5 minutes, just so that way things are working, and you feel comfortable and ready to go. Once you have the program and technology set up, practice an interview with a friend or family member. Pay attention to how you sound on that particular platform, or if you're using a headset, whatever it may be. I would listen to yourself and the tone. Make sure that you're not, just monotone the entire time, and that you have some pitch and variation to your conversation. That way, it's a little bit more engaging and warm and easy to talk to you. Have good posture and eye contact during the interview. Don't be looking off the camera. Don't have anything distracting you. For example, a barking dog or a child sitting on your lap, as we see a lot today, but this is an interview, so you want to put your best foot forward. Also, wait until that person is done speaking. So I know it can be a little bit awkward sometimes via video, but you want to make sure that you're okay with that awkward silence, and you allow that interviewer to have their entire full thought finished and completed before jumping in and interrupting. And again, sometimes with technology there can be a little bit of a lag, so you just want to make sure that you take a pause and that you're okay with that. Also, lastly, I want to make sure that you are in an area where it's completely quiet. I've had candidates where they've interviewed in their car, and you know, people are driving by honking, whatever it may be, and it's a bit distracting. So please make sure that you're in a quiet area with good reception, good lighting. And with all of that being said, testing your program beforehand, you could actually record yourself and watch how everything looks on the camera. Okay, as far as attire goes when joining a virtual interview, I highly recommend just erring more on the professional side. As I said before, you bring your best foot forward, and you also need to understand from that recruiter or HR individual what type of environment you're going into. For example, I have a client who is a manufacturing environment, and they don't usually require candidates to wear suits or being extremely professional. So they would prefer somebody that shows up not in a suit. So understand and ask your recruiter, say, hey, what should I wear in the interview? What is their dress attire? And show up as that. For a woman, I recommend making sure that your accessories and jewelry that you're wearing isn't too loud or distracting or bright colors, just because you just want to make sure that they're focusing on you. Also make sure that the top that you're wearing isn't too low or revealing, and yeah, just make sure that everything looks good and professional as you are presenting yourself in the best light. Okay, so as far as researching and preparing for the interview, I highly recommend that you do a lot of research before the interview. So research the company, visit their website, look at their blog, look at the CEO's message or the company's financial report if you see that out there. It'll give you a really good insight into the organization that you are interviewing at. You can also, look up the hiring managers via LinkedIn or any other social media platform, just to get a feel for the individual that you're interviewing with. And sometimes you might find a common connection from LinkedIn, and you can actually reach out to that individual and say, hey, I see that we're connected with this hiring manager that I'm interviewing with to have an insight into what she's like as a person, and what her team is. That way you come prepared and feel confident in the interview. I also recommend reviewing the job description and your resume prior to interviewing. You want to make sure that you are gearing your answers towards the job that you're applying for and that you know what's on your resume. So everything that's on there is fair game for the interviewer to ask you about. So I highly recommend being familiar with that. And then, as I mentioned before, reach out to connections that you have, whether they've been at this company in the past or, know anything about that organization. It'll help you for sure feel confident going into the interview. Many people ask me, what are the most common interview questions, Emily, and how do I prepare for those? So the most common questions I hear usually are the ones listed on here. Tell me about yourself. Why are you looking to leave your current job? What interests you about this role? Why you for the position? And what are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? So I'll address these first, and then the next three are more behavioral based, and I'll share with you how to adjust those as well. So tell me about yourself, or tell me about your experience or background. This should be really brief and to the point and be pertinent to the job that you're applying for. So for example, if I am a project manager and I'm interviewing for a PM role at a client that, or pretty much an industry that I've been in for a long time, I would just say, my name is Emily. I've been a project manager for the past 10 years. I have previously worked at Walmart, eBay, Etsy, doing an application project following an agile methodology. I do have my certification within PMP, and talk a little bit, give a little bit more in-depth knowledge. Again, this is just me winging it and talking on the fly about how to start that conversation. But you'll probably want to gear a little bit more in-depth answer and how specific it is to the job you're applying for. So why are you interested in the position? Think back to what really gravitated you towards the company to begin with. Was it the company itself? Was it the industry that really interests you? Was it the job, the role? And was this a career move that you were just looking to make? So really think back on that and write down your answers. So that way you're mentally prepared and audible ready. So why are you looking to leave your current job? Number one, never bash the company or hiring manager that you worked with in the past. That is just a big no-no. It sets a poor precedent, and you just want to make sure that you can talk about the true reasoning. And for example, if you really didn't get along with a hiring manager on your team, I wouldn't fully say that, I didn't get along with them. I just say, I'm looking to currently leave my organization. I'm looking for a growth opportunity as, there's an opportunity for me here to continue in the career path that I want to go, and then explain the career path that you want to go and make sure it aligns again to the role that you're applying for. So really kind of divert from, fully expanding on the truth and everything and why you're looking to leave, but talk more about career growth, opportunities, projects, things that excite you and really show your true passion. Why you? So what can you bring to the team? Think about that. You saw the job description and, you're like, wow, I really am a good fit for this. Well, why? What are the experiences that you have that can bring to the team? So again, look at your resume, look at your job experience in the past and speak to that specifically. What is your greatest strength? So I think a lot of times people have a hard time bragging about themselves or don't want to come off as being overly confident. You can do it in a very humble way but yet confident. So talk about a strength that made a huge impact in a particular role. So for example, a recruiter, right? A recruiter has to be really good at building relationships, building rapport with candidates, really doing that matchmaking from a company to a candidate skills perspective. So when I'm interviewing a recruiter, some have said to me, my greatest strength is the ability to build relationships and align candidates to the right roles. And they pretty much also tell me, hey, I've placed 2 to 4 candidates a month, which blows the metrics that's asked of me every single month, and I'm successful in that particular role. And then as far as the weakness goes, find a weakness that you have that's not a main focus of the job. If you're applying for a recruiter position and relationship building is the biggest skill that's needed for the job, you don't want to say that's a weakness of yours. It's building relationships or communication, right? So tell the hiring manager, what your weakness is and how you've been working on it. Give them a specific example of where you were self-aware of you displaying your weakness or caught yourself and how you improve from that. I think that really, gives the manager an understanding that you are willing to make improvements and that you want to, work on those things. So I recommend writing down your answers for these on a note card or type it up. And I usually highlight each category. So I put a category for weakness, and then I put maybe 1 or 2 weakness that I would want to talk about and examples associated with that. Or maybe they have a question about, like for this example, tell me about challenge or conflict you faced at work and how did you deal with it? I'll talk about the STAR methodology next, but I would categorize that particular note card or page on adversity. And then anytime a hiring manager asks me about adversity or challenge, I know to go to that particular place or note card, and boom, there are my examples, right? So want to make sure that you do that. Okay, so as far as how to address behavioral based questions, like some of these I talk about, what's a time where you disagreed with a decision that was made at work? Tell me about a time when you faced adversity. How did you, work with a tough teammate? Things like that. You want to use the STAR methodology. The STAR methodology is an acronym for situation, task, action, result. So you want to start out by, I would write out the actual category. So let's say adversity or conflict. And then I have 2 examples. And then the first example, you could put star and write S, T star down like this. And then I write out the situation specifically. So set the scene and give the necessary details, for example, like it says on here, right? So, what happened? How did this come about? Who was involved and what was the main issue? So you want to address that in the situation. Task. Tell me about your specific responsibility in this situation. What responsibilities did you take on to solve this problem? Did your manager assist in this task that you did, or did you take on the task yourself? Did others have tasks as well? So I just paint that picture. Pretty much this whole STAR methodology is about painting a picture, a story, and talking through your example. From an action standpoint, explain the steps you took to address it. What did you do first? How did that situation or person respond to your action? What did you do next? And then lastly is R for results. Share the outcome of your action. What was the end result of that situation? Was your manager satisfied? Did you continue to handle this issue as time went on? Were you given new responsibilities? Were you promoted? Was the project, executed ahead of time? What was the result? And what was the outcome of it? Again, recommend writing down all of this down and categorizing each area. And usually I email myself an electronic copy of, the examples. So that way I can always use it for future interviews or, other examples. So how to end an interview. Always prepare 3 to 5 questions to ask the hiring manager at the end of the interview. I've been part of interviews where the hiring manager starts out with specifically what questions you have for us. So sometimes that even catches a candidate off guard because they weren't prepared. So the questions that you are asking the hiring manager should be relevant to the job, the team, the project, or job expectations. So by doing this, it just shows that you are interested in the position, that you're eager, and that you took the time to research and really for when a candidate asks questions, it's really a two-way street from interview. You want to make sure it's a fit for you and that it's gonna get you where you want to go in your career. So think of it as a two-way street when it comes to interviewing. It's not always just a hiring manager asking you questions, but you can get yours addressed as well. And then at the end of the interview, I recommend asking two main questions. One, what are the next steps? One can expect to hear an answer by. I'm sorry, that probably it's two questions there, but I have another one after that. But asking that so that way you know when you'll hear back, right? And then my favorite question of all time asking at the end of the interview is, based on the answers I provided you during this interview, what reservations do you have about my abilities to do this job? This will allow for you to address their concerns and be able to rebuttal with an answer that, will speak to their concerns. Perhaps they say, this role does require a lot of leadership skills and, we're a little bit hesitant about your ability to lead a team. Either you could rebuttal back and say, actually, I have managed a team of 10 and here's where I've done it and explain. Or if you don't have leadership skills, you can say, you are correct. I don't have that experience in leadership. However, I've taken a leadership course, or I'm willing to learn and have some mentors, things like that. So those are just really some of the ways to address that. But I love that question. It pretty much addresses everything and doesn't leave anything on the table. So yeah. So in conclusion, for interviews, I highly recommend testing the platform that you're going to be interviewing on, really understanding how to use that platform and the basics of it. So that way your interview will go smoothly. I recommend making sure that you're wearing an attire that makes you feel confident and that's appropriate. I recommend doing a lot of research for the company, the hiring manager, the job itself. I even recommend reaching out to random strangers from the company that is holding a similar position, or people have left the company that's done that job, and you'd be surprised at how many people actually are willing to help and have a conversation with you from LinkedIn. So I recommend doing that, and then really writing out all of your answers for the STAR methodology to address behavioral-based questions. Then lastly, always ask for the job. Show them that you want it and that you're the best candidate for the job. And then send a follow-up thank you. It should be brief and reference the interview if there's anything that came up, and then why you're a fit. So I appreciate everyone's time today. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I know we have a few more minutes, Abby, here that we can have allow for questions. And also, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet some of you and help you along your job search. Thank you.